Hey, I'm Jesse McCartney.
I'm Tom Boy.
And we're in the house.
First of all, just thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I mean, it's exciting for us to have you here at Soul Light Project Series. But more importantly, we're just excited that, you know, as Vietnam keeps opening up its doors, that we have people like yourself come and support our industry. So thank you very much. Yeah.
It's my pleasure. Super excited to be here.
So the first day, the first 24 hours, what's been your first impression of Vietnam?
It's been incredible. I mean, when we were flying in, I just remember thinking how colorful everything was. Yeah. My girlfriend said it looked like someone had taken Legos and just put Lego boxes everywhere. Everything was just colorful blues and yellows and greens, and you just don't have that where I live. But my overall first impression's been amazing. You know, the people are super friendly and the food's delicious.
So I heard you had an episode of Vietnamese coffee.
Yes.
So maybe you can share a little bit about that, Jesse.
So across the street from where I'm staying, there's a little coffee shop, and they said you should go check it out, but just be careful, it's very strong.
Right.
And so I had one, and I was like, oh, this is not too bad, it's pretty good. And then a couple hours later, I went back and had a second one, and that was not a good idea, because now I was like this for like the next 6 hours. But the coffee was really great, actually, not bitter at all, and I'm like a big coffee snob. And so we've been to several coffee shops in the first 24 hours, and I'm really impressed.
I mean, Soul Light Project Series, Jesse, was designed to bring the world to Vietnam, you know, and also to bring Vietnam eventually to the world. And you know, and so when we talk about music in Vietnam, it's still so new in terms of the pop scene and pop culture. And that's why it's so important for us to have people like you come over to Vietnam, because it really is about getting our audience to connect in with the rest of the world and what's happening. Sure. So can you give us a bit of a vibe in terms of the difference and what are you expecting tonight?
Sure. Well, I would say that, you know, overall, music is a common language, right? So I don't speak Vietnamese at all, and there probably are many Vietnamese fans who don't speak English very well, but when there's a song or a melody or a lyric that you connect with, you don't necessarily need to understand the language. I've heard songs in many different languages over the course of my career. Even though I don't understand what they're saying, it's beautiful, it hits you in the right place. And I think that's the same thing with pop and being an international artist, is that a lot of these fans I've never met, maybe we can't speak to each other at the meet and greet, but during the show they're going to give you their undivided attention, and they're there for the music, and that's kind of a special thing that I think has been around for decades and decades and decades. It's my first time in Southeast Asia. I've never been to Vietnam, and I'm just thrilled that I get to, after all these years, still tour and travel and see new faces, which is kind of a rare thing.
One thing that that the Vietnamese love are people who can put their whole heart and soul into a song and to share with that audience, not just as a singer, but as a singer-songwriter. I mean, where does your inspiration come for you to write your songs? And what's your favorite instrument? Like, how do you write your songs? Do you have a process? Is it lyric first and melody later, on guitar, piano? What's the vibe?
It's always different, and I think every songwriter, you know, is different, obviously. But for me, I literally could be in the back of a taxi and something hits me and I'm like, I have to write this down. I have thousands of voice notes in my iPhone of just like melody ideas. Right. A lot of times I'll come back to them later. I'm like, what was I thinking, or what was that even about? But for me, it can happen anywhere, in the back of a cab, on an airplane, while you're sleeping. I have a notebook next to my bed because sometimes I dream in music and I wake up and I'm like, this is so cool. And if I don't write it down immediately, it goes away. So to me, it happens anywhere, anytime. Usually when I'm not at the studio, it happens and I have to go expand on it later. But for me, you know, when I go into the studio, I take an idea or a concept and try to expand on it, and try to develop it into, you know, a cool pop song. And most of the time you fail, but once in a while you have that magic moment that kind of keeps you coming back.
I mean, when did you know that this was the thing for you? Because, I mean, you know, we all, I think, you know, growing up, we all want to be rock stars,
right?
You know, but the difference between dreaming it and then actually going, that's exactly what I want to do and I'm going to work my whole life to get there.
Well, I had a great support system, you know. So growing up as a kid, where a lot of families where I lived were into sports, and you know, every day after school, kids would go to baseball practice or soccer practice. For me, it was piano lessons and coming back and taking theater classes and performing in sort of off-Broadway performances with my family. And we were just a musical household, so growing up, that was just ingrained in my everyday life. And my parents were just always very supportive, you know, and I think that had a lot to do with it. Because it can be, as you know, I mean, it can be a very rough life being an artist. And, you know, no parent wants to see their son or daughter struggle. So I was just very fortunate, but I think it started out, I think, with a great support system with my family.
I don't wanna come up and play shit, but you only call when you're wasted. You only call when you're